Welcome to another episode of OG55 Live. I got Mr. Sticky with me, and we got the one and only Hey Brickey in the house. We're talking all about your D23 predictions. You got 3 judges up here. We're gonna judge your predictions for the D23 Expo. We're only about 10 days out now of the expo, so it's gonna be very, very interesting. Up next on this episode of OG55. Welcome aboard.
Greetings,
everybody.
fellow citizens of Disneyland.
There he is. There he is. Vibes over rides. What's going on, Brickey?
How you guys doing? Thank you so much for having me back on. And as a sign of what I think we're going to learn next weekend, you have noticed I'm not wearing my patent Disneyland cap, but I'm wearing a Walt Disney World cap because I believe the future looks bright out on the East Coast.
There we go. Brickey, if you could let everybody at home know where they could find you on social media, sir.
You can find me in the Grove, sometimes being sweet, sometimes being sticky bricky. And you can find me over in the Citrus Corner. And I got a new show over here called Canker Sores. And you can find me over there twice a week when you've had too much citrus. Always the pulp, baby, with none of that other stuff. Let's go. Concentrate on the concentrate.
I love that. Concentrate on the concentrate. And that deserves a, here we go. That sticky drop for Brickey. Here we go. There we go. There we go.
Oh, sorry, I get stuck on that.
Yeah, and there we got Mr. Italiano in the house. How you doing, George? What's going on?
Doing good, dude. I can't beat that. I mean, Brickey's intro. I mean, that's just I got nothing.
Right?
You don't even have your little TV on this week.
No, I don't, because actually when I did I think it was when I did the solo video, I had a Disney movie playing on in the background. No audio, no sound, no nothing.
And it got caught?
It got caught. Like, we couldn't even just demonetize the thing. It was like they literally shut it down.
Shut it down.
Your intricate bootleg operation of a tiny little TV showing something at a 30-degree angle got shut down.
I guess that, I get called a shill all the time on X. Like, I guess that kind of blows that whole theory out of the water, huh? I'm a shill that, they're copywriting OG even, you know what I'm saying? It's
crazy.
Wild. It's wild.
But if everyone wants to follow me on social media, you could do so on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you could find me right here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes Brickey news and info.
You can also find him over at Kennywood, where he put the brick under the beam that's keeping the main roller coaster together.
There it is. Over there at Kennywood, right, George? Oh, it's
high quality stuff there.
And do you think that there's a live stream anywhere tonight where 3 dudes are talking about what Kennywood is going to announce for their upcoming season of roller coastering
in some alternate universe, right? We got the Kennywood chat. All right, here we go. Let's dive in, boys. We got a $5 super chat from Mr. Matthew Murr. Tough question. If you wanted Walt Disney World to be built somewhere other than Florida, what location would you choose in the U.S.? Interesting question. What do you think about that, Brickey? I mean, it's kind of a tough one because Walt Disney World is such a beast in terms of size, but
yeah, I mean, the only other sort of region that would give you the same space and climate and infrastructure would be the Texas area, which fans have sort of theorized on a long time. But Texas gets into exactly what Walt was trying to avoid. He wanted to put something that was just polar opposite of Disneyland on the coast, but on the other side of the country, allowing each park to sort of work its own territory. So, Florida is actually the perfect spot for Walt Disney World. I mean, maybe, if you just had to go someplace else, you could go up into Alabama or Georgia if you wanted a similar thing. But now you're going to get into the colder weather. So, I mean, let's just go with Catalina and really just be spoiled brats out here and just have a whole Disney island that we have to take a boat over to, so it feels even more like Jurassic Park.
Well, that'd be great, actually, you know, because Disney could buy the whole thing, right? And buy Catalina and put it there. That's perfect. I mean,
Avalon is the really only active spot of the entire land. So, I mean, they shot a lot of Lost on the backside of it where nobody ever goes. So let's go Disney Catalina. That's definitely not what Mr. Seymour Duck wanted to hear, by the way.
Exactly. Now, little fun fact here, actually, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys knew this, but like, I guess like decades and decades ago, there was a movie filmed. I forgot what movie it was. George probably knows. George knows all this kind of stuff. But there was a movie filmed on Catalina Island, and they brought in buffalo for that film.
Yep.
And the buffalo are still there.
Yep, and thriving. They thrive in that environment. It's like a bunch of buffalo went on vacation, like, we're never going back.
Exactly. In like a Hawaiian shirt, just chilling, you know.
Paul Adler over on the live chat just asked me, Brickey, what's your favorite World Showcase pavilion in terms of aesthetics? And you always have to go with Morocco, baby.
There you go. What say you, George? You're the Florida guy. What say you? In terms of aesthetics.
See, I would say Morocco, but the choice lately of what they've been doing to it, I'm not a fan of, like the changing of the tile work and everything. But I do have to agree, just overall, with Brickey, that Morocco, I think, is aesthetically pleasing, as far as the intricacy and details, plus of what Imagineers did to the one side of Tower of Terror, that if you stand in World Showcase and look at it through an angle where the Morocco Pavilion is, and you look over in the distance where Tower of Terror is, it has a Moroccan kind of design. So when you look at it, it fits in. And that's, I believe, what they wanted to do with the when they were having that Moana volcano coaster thing over in Adventureland. It was supposed to look out into the Polynesian village.
One of the things that also is interesting about Morocco, because I really like the England pavilion, because you can kind of go around that little nook there and go in that park, and the whole rest of Epcot just disappears, right? And the Paris pavilion or French pavilion is really nice too, but they both feel very theme parky. And because Morocco literally is just a set piece with no attractions or anything in there, it relies just on the architecture and the aesthetics of it. So it is the one that feels the most authentic, like you've gone to another country and not stepping into a theme park pavilion. That's why I go with that one.
So the one pavilion I can never recall is the Canada pavilion, because every time I do the drinking around the world, I always start off in Mexico. So by the time I get to Canada, it's a blur.
Gone.
It's also in a really weird spot. It kind of feels disjointed from the rest of the World Showcase being up there on the front, because even Mexico kind of sits back a little bit. But if I had to pick my least favorite one, I'd have to go with the Mexico pavilion. Not a fan.
Interesting. What are your thoughts, Brickey? I'm kind of curious about the canceled project of Westcott, in terms of, basically a World Showcase park, right?
Yeah,
I mean, would you like to see that here in California? Dust those plans off and bring it out here, maybe in the Toy Story lot or something? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the original Westcott would just be any theme park enthusiast's dream come true, like what they had proposed. But the problem with it is when that goes out in the OC register, they just roll out this big, ambitious plan that was over cocky and confident. People looked at it and go, wait a minute, my house is inside of that bubble. Like my business exists in this footprint. Like nobody called me yet. And so because they didn't do Disneyland Forward first and lay the groundwork, and they just said, ta-da, we're just going to take over the city, people were rightfully pissed off. So that ship has sailed because of DCA, because what they were trying to do was going to be next level. And Epcot itself was already a huge park. This was going to be even bigger. So as much as in my heart of hearts, and I love Epcot, and having one on the West Coast, just, 10 miles from my home would be a dream come true. It's never going to happen, because the amount of land that they have available would make such a subpar experience that you could barely do a Future World or a World Showcase. But doing the whole thing together and doing it at a scale that would make Disney fans happy, that is a losing task, my friend.
Yeah, that's a shame. And I think with the locals, that drink around the world thing. If they could, could get, oh God, it would be incredible. You know, hugely popular.
Well, they're trying to make DCA a drink around the park type of park. You know,
pretty much.
Well, OG, you have to think you could have that Band-Aid, you know, that wound Band-Aided when you get your Toy Story Land.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I tell you, dude, if they announce that Toy Story Land and any of the Disneyland Forward stuff, I'll be so mad. You spend all that political capital, all that time and money, blood, sweat, and tears to get that land, and you plop down Toy Story Land. I'll be mad.
Slinky Dog, unbelievable roller coaster, like just such a fun family ride. One of their greatest attractions on the West Coast. That being said, Toy Story Land is a pile of trash. Like, mow the lawn, landscape it, cut it back. That is the one thing that if Walt saw it, he'd go, and he'd just die again, because it goes completely against the park aesthetic of Disney. I mean, it just looks like an overgrown, throw all the junk in the corner. And I'm from the South, right? And you go further away from the city, there's no more zoning laws, and people just got cars covered in blue tarps, and just, you know, when you're done riding a bike, you leave it in the backyard, and, you know, when the kids grow up and go away, you still leave the trampoline out there. That is what Toy Story Land looks like. It looks like trash.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just not the greatest looking thing. I wish they'd go with a little bit more imagination when it comes to the Toy Story franchise. The toys play a lot. A lot of those Toy Story shorts are the toys kind of in these kind of interesting environments, like the one about the time stood still, or I forgot the name of it. George,
that time forgotten.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you. Stuff like that. Get a little imaginative with the franchise, but Disney always wants to go back to Andy's backyard or whatever, you know, and it's really uninspired.
Now, you enjoyed Slinky Dog, right, OG?
That is a great coaster. Yeah. And it's actually a little more intense than I expected, a little faster than I expected.
Yeah. And has that little reboot, you know, that kind of makes it happen all over again. And, you know, that first drop when you're coming over the main walkway, like, it's a really great roller coaster. And then the flat rides for the kids, you know, my best friend from England has two little ones, and they were just at Hollywood Studios, and the kids like loved riding those flat rides. They rode them over and over again, you know? So there's good attractions there. It's just the bits and pieces that tie it all together are horrible. And then don't get me started about coming out of Galaxy's Edge. I mean, come on, dude.
What a transition that is.
That is the dry hump of Disney transitions.
Oh, absolutely.
And not in a good way.
No,
it's horrible. And it's like, and that's the thing that kind of frustrates me a little bit with Disney. And look, as a Californian, as a Disneylander, it's fantastic. They favor Disneyland like crazy. It's obvious. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm certain we'll get the better Tiana as well, you know? Sure. But it is a little frustrating because I get it. Disneyland is Walt's park. But all these parks bear his name. Let's put a little bit of the same amount of love into all of it. I get it. And even, you know, a lot of fans even do that with California Adventure. It's like, oh, well, it's California Adventure. Who cares? I'm like, no, I care. It sits feet away from Walt's park. I want it to be just as good, you know? Disney's Hollywood Studios. His name is on the sign. Let's get it. Let's get it just as good, you know? So it is frustrating. I mean, hopefully they do put now after the D23 Expo, which we'll talk a lot about today. Hopefully there's going to be a lot of love going into that overall Walt Disney World Resort, and it's done really, really, you know, well done. And it's not, you know, kind of just thrown in there like Galaxy's Edge was, but we'll see.
The pieces are there. It's missing that TLC. I mean, I know the theme that they're going for is like toys thrown in the backyard. And I know that the grass and everything's supposed to be tall because we're supposed to be small, but it doesn't look aesthetically pleasing. It looks like a mess, and it's super hot in there. It's loud and it's chaotic. Other than the giant Christmas lights, I can't get out fast enough.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think also too, with Galaxy's Edge, when you take both parks of Disneyland and Hollywood Studios, you're already putting a highly aesthetically pleasing themed land into Disneyland Park that's already aesthetically pleasing. Where when you put something into Galaxy's Edge into a park that was basically a working movie studio, it's like it throws it out of its element, because there's still other elements in that park that still kind of showcase as a working studio, even though it isn't anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Now, Lene Ward here says, my unlikely prediction is a new world of color will be announced. Music is a theme, and so is water. And the Death Wheel is the poster for D23. Yeah, I mean, the Pixar pal around is in the poster for D23. I mean, depending on how far we want to read into that, but that is true. What do you think about that, Brickey? Any chance we'll get a new World of Color? I mean, I know people don't really like World of Color 1. Is that a possibility?
I mean, I like where her head's at, because World of Color, like upgrading that show, is an easy Disneyland announcement, right? I mean, they've now made so many shows for that. I mean, I'm not belittling the amount of work that it takes to get all systems go and to create one, but obviously it's a pretty low lift as far as Disney nighttime show operations go, right? I mean, they have all the infrastructure in there. You come up with your new projections, you queue it all up, and you're good to go. So if they are looking for easy West Coast wins, that's a fun one to roll out and show that, because entertainment right now at the Disneyland Resort is at an all-time low. I mean, the plot of every Christmas movie is that Christmas spirit is low and you have to save Christmas. Well, right now at the Disneyland Resort, entertainment spirit is low. And so to save that, a quick announcement would be great. But what I would like to point out is every park's major icon is represented in there. So when you see the Mickey Fun Wheel, that could be very indicative of what most fans think, and what I think is going to happen is an update with the Avengers Campus e-ticket. I feel like that's where that announcement's going to go. And I'd like to point out one thing too while we're talking about icons. You guys did a live stream or a video where you were talking about the Horizons poster art, and I hit up George on the side and I said, don't forget the giant sun that Mickey is standing in front of is a hidden Spaceship Earth. So Epcot is represented in that artwork. Just most people don't see that as Spaceship Earth.
That's interesting. That's very, very interesting. So are you pretty bullish, Brickey, on Epcot? Even though Epcot has gone through quite a bit in the past few years with the Future World situation, with Cosmic Rewind. Do you feel like that this park might actually see some pretty big announcements at the expo? Possible?
I'm going to go literal with the poster art. By the way, the C that you guys see over in the chat, whenever I mention Christmas, my community throws a C in the chat for Christmas, because we are big Christmas folks. Shout out to all my friends from Club 1313 that followed me over here tonight. And I'm seeing are becoming members of the channel and all that stuff. Good to see them enjoying your content as well. But I'm going to take the Horizons poster art literally. And I'm thinking about it from a Disney perspective. I think they're going to announce at least one thing for every single park. Now, It could be big, it could be small, but I think really they want to come out swinging. And there are some quick wins for Epcot. Okay, we could see an update to, Figment. That would be not a lot of money, but would make fans just go insane. We could see them, blow the dust off the idea for the Play Pavilion. Once again, that's an idea that got pretty far along. Wouldn't take a lot to reboot that idea. And there were already plans for redoing Spaceship Earth. So it just needs a budget, literally, no research and development. So they got Figment being the hardest, but Play Pavilion plans and Spaceship Earth, those are really easy wins. They just got to write a check. The research and development's done. Walt Disney Imagineering has already signed off on it. So, even though Epcot has gotten a pretty big makeover, it hasn't been super popular. Yep. And I don't think any of the things they've done other than Ratatouille are really, and Guardians. I mean, those are two major attractions, but Guardians now has a couple years on it. But as far as competing with Universal and bringing people to Epcot, they could use one more thing in there over the next 2 or 3 years to make sure Epcot doesn't become one of the parks that people choose to skip.
Now, Brickey, let me ask you this, because we talked about this on the channel before, but I want to get your take on it.
Oh, and Test Track's in progress too. Mark just pointed that out in the chat.
Yes.
True.
When it comes to World Showcase at Epcot, we haven't seen any kind of needle moving with another possible country pavilion, which a lot of, there's been talks that it's been, they were considering maybe Spain, with the film Gigantic, but Gigantic got canceled, and so that acts Spain and what have you. But I also was thinking with the D23, they're holding a D23 event in Brazil. Do you see any kind of correlation between that and a possible Brazil pavilion, or can you possibly see something just coming to South America in general? Because it seems like Disney has been kind of hinting with a lot of things with South America lately.
If I were to guess, and this is just off the top of my head, if I were to guess anything that they're going to do with South America, that could potentially be the home for the next Story Living by Disney. If they were to do some sort of like vacation homes, like a DVC Story Living, you know, I'm talking about what they're doing with Encanto, or not Encanto, Cotino out in Palm Springs. Like, I could see them maybe doing something like that. Putting a park out there, I doubt it. I mean, I don't know. Would they build a port for cruise ships to go to South America? I mean, that could kind of be in play with all of that. But there is so much room to expand the World Showcase. I just don't think that's really a top priority. And if they're spending money to make sure the parks don't get skipped, I kind of think that would maybe be something they would do 4 or 6 years from now. I think right now they're in a, like, we got to kind of dig out. And I think a new pavilion would make people excited, but new pavilion is like, you know, Moana water, you know, the girl that likes to hydrate. It's like that on steroids. You know what I mean? Because you know the song, George, I've been drinking lots of water. It's H2O everywhere I go. So, you know, that's where I kind of see that one going.
Absolutely. Now, Disney guy here says we're bringing it back to the West Coast for Disneyland's 70th. Paint the Night and Murphy back at Fantasmic. This is interesting because for the 70th, we know we're not getting a new attraction, because we would know that by now. They would be building it. Yeah. You know, so we're not getting that. But I've heard rumblings of Paint the Night for a few years now coming back. I think even it was I forgot who, but they had pictures on Twitter like a year ago of the floats being actually backstage. It's possible. I could see them rolling that out. That would be an easy win for, you know, with the fans. Murphy back at Fantasmic. I heard they are building a new Dragon Force. So again, that's a possibility. And I also think they're going to do the Walt animatronic in Lincoln. I know it's a rumor right now, but there's a lot of momentum behind that. I think we'll probably get that announcement. But what say you, Brickey?
I mean, Walt animatronic. I don't know if my heart's ready for that. I mean, that is my dream scenario for a Disneyland attraction upgrade, is to put the man himself in there. If for any other reason, just to be able to film that footage of Walt, to put him as B-roll in my videos where I talk about Walt, because I can only show the partner statue so many times. Sure. So, I mean, that would be phenomenal if they do that. Tying it into the 70th anniversary and putting Walt back in the park, that would be great. But you know, $1 million to make an animatronic these days, if you're going to do the A100 or A1000, I forget what the name is off the top of my head, those are $1 million each. And if you're going to do a Walt animatronic, you got to do it justice.
Oh yeah.
Does $1 million Walt animatronic bring in $1 million worth of new business? That's where my head is at right now. Paint the Night, easy win. We will see Paint the Night come back at some point. But I mean, this is what fans got to keep in mind. The longer something runs, the more you have an opportunity to get sick of it. And what Disney does is what, like, any great showman does. You know, take Kiss, for example. It's our last tour. You'll never see us again. They go home, they realize they hate their wives and their lives, and then they go back out on the road like 3 years later. So the fact that Main Street Electrical Parade, it pops up and it goes away. It pops up and it goes away. What happens every time it shows up? People freak out. And then after a couple of months, you can see the park loosens up and people don't care as much. So all of the parades are supply and demand. They rarely ever take them out back like Old Yeller and put a 22 to the head and, like, you know, completely dismantle it, destroy it, sell it to parts, the knots, for a paint the afternoon daytime cavalcade. So I would say that, you know, those things coming back, you should always anticipate them. But somebody who's smart is going, Paint the Night, we got that earmark for a 3-year return. After 3 years, people, that whole parade calendar, I guarantee you it's laid out, and they could tell you what parades are showing up when, for what anniversaries, for what movie releases over the next 5 years. Guarantee you that's a spreadsheet that exists.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, with in terms of the Walt animatronic and stuff, I think that's such a beautiful tribute to Walt because, well, not only are you recreating the man, right, but you're putting him in the attraction. He idolized Lincoln.
Yeah,
it's such a beautiful tribute to this man. I mean, if you can get, but you're right though, Brickey. If you miss the mark on that animatronic, the fans would go nuts.
It cannot be the dad from Carousel of Progress.
they can't do what they did with the with the Trump animatronic, where it was like obviously Hillary Clinton before.
Dude. I can go out on a limb and say it was a Democrat that built that animatronic because they're just like, that's good enough. Because like the Joe Biden one for the next president looks pretty good, but the Trump one looks insane. Like they could just roll him over to Universal for the Halloween shows, and people will be like, but did you see the scary guy at the end of the hallway?
It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Halloween Horror Nights, Universal absolutely have to pick that up. George, what say you paint the night coming back to Disneyland, you think, or possibility, or?
Yeah, I think in time. I don't know if we would hear it specifically at D23, but I feel like in time I could definitely see it coming back. But I don't know. I kind of like Brickey's idea. Paint the afternoon on my lunch break, 12:30. Absolutely. Shoshona here says, I think the fans will revolt if something isn't revealed. And she's talking about D23. Yeah, I think this expo, they really gotta blow the doors open. Like the last couple expos, Josh came out there and disappointed fans with, the blue sky stuff. They got to come out there and really give us some concrete stuff. And here's the thing too, if they want to do the blue sky thing, it's okay as long as you have a bunch of other big announcements to sort of like offset that a little bit. So if you excite fans with all these big things and you're like, and we're also thinking about this, I think it'll be okay. But if you just roll out the blue sky stuff and just like some very minor confirmed stuff, I think that's when you get into some risky, some dangerous waters there. What say you, Brickey?
Let's look at the broad strokes here, right? We're at the Honda Center. So they have upgraded this to, a 15,000 seat arena. Okay. So we're no longer in the convention center. We're in the Honda Center. We're no longer at, a 1:00 kickoff like it's an NFL game on Sunday. We're at 7:00 on Saturday night. Okay. So the stage is set to where they are putting way more into this. So your question is, do they have something big to announce, or is just that Disney cockiness of we can just always go big, we can always show up, and the fans will always buy what we're going to sell them? The last 3 shows, the D23 and the Roads, the Destination Ds that sort of bookend it, there were a lot of economic things that were happening. There were a lot of excuses to not go hard and not go big. Closing Disneyland for 440 days, that's got to hurt. Closing Walt Disney World for 100 days, that's got to hurt. And even when they opened, it was a slow roll back to normalcy, right? So they had just, everything was great in 2019. They bought Fox, guns were blazing, they're spending money, and then the bottom falls out of everything. It's actually a great story. It's like everything was going good, and then it all fell apart. And we've heard this time and time again. Paris, Euro Disney fell apart. 9/11, not the first time that we've been there. But this is the moment to rebound. And if this rebound isn't solid, then people will have major questions about Josh's leadership, Iger's leadership, and the overall corporation. Now, if me, an idiot from Louisville, Kentucky, knows all of this, certainly these high-paid executives at Disney know all of this and then some, because their livelihoods and their generational wealth depends on it. I'm telling you right now, this will be big. People will not leave disappointed. There will be some major announcements. Not everybody's going to get everything that they want, but they cannot risk failure. And if you look at all the accoutrements, they have set the stage for something big. The poster art itself is promising Horizons, a new reboot. Every single park is listed in there. This is the one they know that they got to come in hot and heavy. I don't know what they're going to announce, but I know they're going to announce something. So all the people are like, it'll just be smoke and mirrors. It'll just be blue sky. Absolutely not. They can't afford to. They cannot. I mean, if they do that, I will gladly eat my words and I will say, hey, I was wrong, but I wasn't thinking like an idiot, because that would be an idiot's move to go in there with nothing big to talk about and be like, something shiny. Oh, look, a scarf turning into a pigeon. If they do that, they deserve all the hate that comes their way.
No, absolutely, Ricky. Well said. And here's the other thing too: is Josh. This is a career thing for him, a personal career thing for him as well. Here's a man who wants to be CEO. He's on that short list. Yep. He can't afford to get up on that stage and then have the next day all the headlines, disappointing D23, all this stuff. The last thing he wants right now, while he's trying to become the next CEO, are bad headlines, and the fans are upset and outraged over another disappointing D23. He has to come out and deliver. And like you said, Brickey, these guys are smart guys and gals. They know they have to come out there and hit a home run this time. The stars are kind of perfectly aligning for this whole thing to happen, 100%. And it's going to be big. Yeah. What say you, Italiana?
Yeah, I'm an optimistic type of person. I always like to look at the glass half full before sucking it down and making it empty. But but I do think, the company can't afford to have any more mishaps, especially from the last few expos, the Destination Ds coming off short with the blue sky. I get it. We're still probably going to get blue sky tendencies, obviously, but as long as we get some hard hitting, green lit announcements, I'm okay with that. And I feel like we're going to get some announcements for Disneyland, but I also feel like we might be getting a little bit more of the blue sky kind of way for Disneyland because of Disneyland Forward. They can't go and say everything at once. So obviously they're going to showcase some blue sky stuff to say, hey, we're considering this down the road. And the reason why fans may be looking at that as a negative kind of outlook towards it is because Josh D'Amaro beat the blue sky concept with a stick from the last expo in Destination D.
Yeah, and George, I would, as a Disneylander, this is everything, it's all so subjective, right? But as a Disneylander, I'm really rooting for DCA because I think DCA has fallen way behind, So if we get more detail on Pandora, which I think we are going to get that. If we get more detail on Pandora, we think we're assuming it's going to go into DCA. That's kind of like the going rumor. If we get Pandora into DCA and we get more detail on that, and we get that Avengers e-ticket, I'm a happy OG. As a Disneyland person, I'm a happy OG. I think that's solid for this little park. And then anything they do for Disneyland is kind of icing on the cake for me. But what about you, Brickey? As a Disneyland guy, what would be enough for you personally to be like, okay, you walk away from this going, you know what, I'm happy?
Man, that's hard because, I understand the complexities of Disneyland. Walt Disney World, it's like, put a shovel in the ground, let's go. They got room to grow in every direction. That's why Walt went out there and put together the Florida project. But Disneyland, it's so intricate. And in my D23 video that I did, where I didn't really talk about what's coming, I just kind of wanted to show everybody this is where all 6 domestic parks have room to grow. I went out of my way to point out in my video, the Disneyland Resort is the most complicated part of the Disney ecosystem, because if you want to put in the Avatar experience and you want to do it right, you got to build a parking garage. And guess what? You don't build a parking garage in an afternoon. So what I will be happy to walk away from is I have the ability to be happy for others. So if Walt Disney World gets a lot of really great announcements, like concrete stuff, and it's good quality stuff, and they just say, and we're working on Disneyland. Disneyland Forward's going, here's some here's some sort of ambiguous stuff. We're working on it. You're going to see this project roll over the next 10 years. I will walk away and be happy with that. I don't need something concrete for DCA. I don't need something concrete for Disneyland. I'll certainly take it. But if it's just like Autopia is going electrical and we're doing a new show for World of Color and we're working on the Avengers e-ticket, like if it's just all kind of a setup and you can tell that Disneyland's going to get its due in 2026, I'm happy with that because I realize that would give them 2 more years of planning and infrastructure. And what I do not want with the Disneyland Resort are patches. I don't want band-aids. I want long-term solutions, because that's what Disneyland needs, because it is so complicated. You make a quick win here or there, and you could literally end up with a broken Tomorrowland that is so complicated to fix.
And you're spot on, Brickey, because here at Disneyland, we don't have the blessing of size like they do in Florida.
No.
So the stakes are higher. They spent, like I said earlier on in the show, they spent all this political capital, money, time, 3 years getting that Disneyland Forward initiative approved. This land is very precious. You have to utilize this land in a very, very smart way. And like you said, Brick, you can't go in there and band-aid things. You don't want to go in there, and be, reactive in any way. This stuff has to work, and has to work they got to think like 30 years ahead, And
you wouldn't really think that Walt Disney World has all that land, because Lord, they don't touch it. It's like they say the blessing of size, which is great. It's phenomenal. They have all that land, but it's like, okay, can you showcase that a little bit?
Yeah, they've been conservative with their with the way they use the land at Walt Disney World, even though it's an embarrassment of riches.
Well, what's interesting too, is that I think that because we are so landlocked here at Disneyland, it forces the Imagineers to sort of get more creative. It's out of necessity. It's like that whole stretching room in Haunted Mansion was built out of necessity to get you outside the berm. And I think a lot of creativity stems from that kind of
what?
The
not
friction.
All in the house. It's wait a minute. Hold on here. OG55 exclusive. You mean that's not all in the house?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, man. Look at our Galaxy's Edge. Say what you will about Galaxy's Edge. It may not be not my Star Wars, but it is absolutely beautiful. And the way that it fits into all three entry points, it's a thing of beauty. They took their time with it, and then they just dropped whatever they needed to over at Hollywood Studios. They always go above and beyond for Disneyland. And because it is so delicate, I just, as long as you can just see that the wheels of progress are moving, I'm good with it. I don't want them to rush to things, and I want them to take their time and to do all the infrastructure things they need to do. So when they do make the big decisions, they are really great big decisions. I don't want anything rushed.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. What say you, Italiano?
Yeah, I'm one that I'm okay with waiting. I'm a very patient person, so I would rather them do something than Mickey Mouse it, sort of thing.
Oh,
trying to stay on brand here. But as long as they kind of give us the okay, so to speak, that okay, we are doing this is moving forward. I don't care how long it takes, but as long as I see progress is a good thing. If I see some shovels in the ground and they start building the structures or what have you, then that's fine. If they want to take 6 years, how long it took for Tron, oh well, so be it. It's out of my hands anyway, so it's like I'd rather them do something than just throw it together and say, hey, here's your piece of crap attraction. It's like
we couldn't afford Tron, so we're giving you T-Ron, everybody's favorite futuristic guy on a moped. T-Ron coming to Disneyland.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, I'm T-Ron. You'll see me in 2026 in Tomorrowland 5.
Fantastic. Mark Apwan here with a generous donation, 1313. Ooh, I like that. I like that little homage there. Awesome. On brand. Mark here says Beyond Big Thunder needs to be announced and details as to what the land will be. Disneyland Forward needs more detail, conceptual artwork. Yeah. See the Beyond Big Thunder thing, they've teased that for far too long at this point. Like at this point, yeah. Right? Yeah. Well, it has to be, right?
It has to be. I mean, if they just don't do that and just kind of skip past that, people will be like, what in the hell did I just see? I mean, that has to be done. And also too, let's think about it. It's going to take, Mark just gave you an excellent pronunciation of his last name. With my dyslexia, I always thought his last name was Aquarium. So, because my brain just like sees some letters and goes, it's probably Aquarium or Aqua. That would work. I just realized for the first time in my life, there's not even a Q in his last name. So that goes to show you where my brain's at. But the beauty of the Big Thunder Mountain thing is that it has to happen, because when Epic Universe shows up, people only have so many vacation days. We've talked about this 1,000 times. They have to make a reason for Magic Kingdom to be a must stop. So let's once again do the timeline. They announced the Big Thunder today. They've obviously been planning this for a couple of years because they teased it with us 2 years ago, but they weren't ready to make an announcement. So they announced it today. They start working on it into 25. 25, the new park opens up. So they know that they're going to take an L in 25 and 26 because of Universal. So while the numbers are dipping because everybody's excited about Nunu, once Nunu wears off, the Disneyland or Disney World Magic Kingdom is going to be queued up with something big to bring people back in. So if you just look at the timeline of everything, if that is ready to go 26, 27, which they can make those type of deadlines if they put their head to it, that'll be right when the new car smell has worn off from Epic Universe and it has a couple of dents and scratches. And when people go down to Orlando, they're ready to make sure that they go back to the Magic Kingdom because now there's this new thing behind Big Thunder Mountain. It all lines up perfectly.
Well, first I have to say, I would prefer them to call the park New than Universal's Epic Universe. I would literally take it as New. But yeah, as far as for Beyond Big Thunder, especially in the Horizons poster, I mean, with the Big Thunder Mountain like plastered right on that thing,
right.
You know, it's pretty much a given that's what we're going to get. But I hope they don't like beat around the bush with it, and you know, just kind of like that's something that should be solidified, locked in, kind of give us. I wouldn't even mind at this point. It doesn't necessarily have to say like when the timeline of it open is. I'm more so curious to know what is actually going to be put there, because you know, for that period of time they were considering Coco, Encanto, and Villains, and then Encanto gets moved over to Animal Kingdom. There's possibly still considering Coco, and again, if they do decide to go with Villains, I want something of like the Dark Universe kind of architecture design. I don't want no watered down, hand-me-down,
sugary
Candy Crush, sugar, cookie cutter rendition of the Villains. I do not want it.
I was in my D23 predictions video that I did. I talked about, you know, these are different things that other people are predicting that was going in there. And I talked about how Mickey Views had been reporting with confidence that there was going to be some sort of version of Radiator Racers going back there. And even though aesthetically that would blend in perfectly with Big Thunder Mountain, I push back on that and go, that will not make fans happy, because each resort and each park needs a couple of like big attractions that are uniquely that park. And so Disney California Adventure, the thing that it has going for it is that Radiator Springs is so successful. Avengers Hallway, I don't know that anybody's booking a trip for that currently. It could change, but DCA and Radiator Springs is a real winner. And a guy in the comments goes, "You're wrong. I don't want to travel out to I don't want to travel out to the West Coast a lot. So if they did that, I wouldn't have to travel, and fans do want that." And I was like, brother, thank you so much for proving me correct, because the fact that if they put that there limits people wanting to travel and go to DCA. So even somebody who's arguing with me is proving me right in that each park needs to have some things that are unique to it. So I really will be shocked if they put a Radiator Racers in that area. And if they do, it makes me really question their leadership and what their faith and Imagineering is at this moment, because duplicating that would be a massive error.
You know, you're 100% right, Brickey. And another reason too why I think it'd be a huge mistake is because it's rumored to go into that Beyond Big Thunder area. This is an area, this Beyond Big Thunder thing has been hyped beyond belief now. It's been hinted at and teased for years, literally years. And then for Disney to get up on that stage and say, hey, you know what? We're bringing not Cars Land, because, you know, Mickey View's rumor wasn't for the whole land. It was half of it. We're going to give you a clone and only half a clone.
Yeah.
The Floridians will be furious over that, I think. And it doesn't even fit. It doesn't even fit. We lost Brickey. It doesn't even fit Magic Kingdom, in my opinion. What say you, George?
Yeah, if they were to do that, I mean, as I love Radiator Springs Racers, but I'm one that I don't mind having carbon copies of things that maybe are at the Disney parks internationally, because really, how many times could you make it out there? So it's like they have that opportunity domestically. You know, you got it, Brickey.
I was going to say, I just was chiming in that I agree that international parks and domestic parks, there is a level of duplication because realistically, how many people are going to go to Shanghai and go to China? So I would think that part makes sense to me. But domestically, you got to keep them separated like the offspring.
Yeah.
Keep them separated.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But to put in something, and even by the time they're done with that attraction, they would essentially be saying, okay, this is going to be the biggest expansion in Magic Kingdom history. They're kind of tying it to like a Galaxy's Edge kind of Pandora-esque kind of expansion, but you're going to put in by the time it opens, a 20+ year attraction that's just the attraction, not the land. And as I said, I love Radiator Springs Racers. I love Cars Land, but it fits more into DCA. I want it in DCA. Yeah. I want it to stay in DCA because it gives me that urge to fly over cross country and say, "Hey, this is something that I could only do at DCA."
And it's almost now at this point so tied into the DCA DNA, so to speak. Yeah. That franchise, that land, that attraction, it's just so. It's almost like the. I don't know. It's almost like the maybe Pirates of the Caribbean or something for Disneyland. It just feels so connected to that park. It would feel weird to have it anywhere else at this point, I think. You know what I'm saying? It just feels so ingrained in that DCA kind of identity. Now, a friend of the channel, Ali Aloha here says, Josh tomorrow promised me announcements. Well, she was so to put a little context onto this, she went to the Adventures by Disney vacation thing a few months ago. And she asked him, she says here, and I pointedly asked him about that, hoping for announcements versus Blue Sky. So yeah, she was talking about it on the channel. Actually, she was on here a little while ago where she was saying, she asked him outright, like, are we getting announcements? And he told her, yeah, we're getting announcements with some Blue Sky mixed in. That would be fine. As long as the announcements are solid, I think you can get away with some Blue Sky stuff here and there. Absolutely.
I mean, part of the fun of all of this is the imagination of it all. And when you go to these things and you look at the concept art, it's not all going to land. You're not going to get everything that goes there, but there's just an excitement on the what if. And I hope that Disney doesn't sort of, get Blue Bayou balls and not like completely still go for it, and because there is a fun to all of that. And they got to like not look at all the criticism. I'd like to drop those with a straight face, but George is getting me. You got to not look at all the criticism and still keep it kind of loose, right? Because that is part of the fun of following this company. Last time we were all together, I talked about my analogy of how being a Disney fan is like being a sports fan. Just the sport is, all of this different stuff we're talking about tonight. So I hope that they do keep it loose, but they know they have to do some concrete announcements. And if you watch my D23 video that I did, I purposely left the audio in there of them teasing this stuff because, I'm doing my narration thing and then they tease it. And when you hear that arena full of people go nuts when they see that Villains Land, those people don't know they're in a Blue Sky improv session. They think they've just been told that a Villains Land is coming to Magic Kingdom. When they see the Encanto house, those people go nuts and they are so stoked that they think all this stuff is happening. I think it was George that said, if they did a Blue Sky session and it was just like, you go to this and it's up front, we're just going to show you the creative process and how we dream big. That would be one thing. But in the headlining spot of D23 to just tickle everybody's ass with Dumbo's feather, that was not the moment to do that. Because when you hear the audio track, those people think that they're getting all the stuff that they're being told. I think they've learned from that. And I also, like I said earlier in tonight's conversation, we're in a much different economic place than we were 2 years ago. And the company's also in a different do or die situation. They're not dum-dums. They know what the stakes are.
And you just gave me a whole nother reason not to watch Dumbo.
Awesome. Mr. Seymour Duck, friend of the channel, gifted one OG55 membership. Thank you so much, Mr. Duck. We appreciate you, sir. We do appreciate you. Breck Saval says, how do you even compare one single bit with what Epic Universe just announced? Here's the thing, Breck. Universal's doing some fantastic stuff. I agree with you. They're amazing stuff. Universal's biggest issue, though, now we were watching this, Ministry of Magic video today, George and I, and we reacted to it. The video will be up tomorrow. But here's the thing. Universal's issue is that everything is either preschool, like the Yoshi attraction, right? Or like the water boat shooter thing in How to Train Your Dragon Land, or it's launching you 70 miles an hour, flipping you upside down, jerking you around and all kinds of stuff. There's no, Universal doesn't really have many like everybody rides where like your grandma and your 8-year-old can enjoy this stuff together. Even the Harry Potter stuff, it's all pretty intense, like Forbidden Journey and Gringotts and this new ride. They need to get into more like 4-quadrant, everybody can go on it kind of stuff. That's I think Universal's biggest like issue at this point. But I'm curious about your thoughts on that, Brickey, in terms of the competition factor and Universal's approach and what have you.
I mean, Universal is, they're creating an entire new park, and that's going to get everybody's curiosity. Right. And they have gone above and beyond their normal performance with this park. Just like Disney knows that this D23 is a do or die moment, Universal knows that like, if we want to be the man, we got to step up to the man. And that's exactly where they're going with this. And I mean, well played. They're borrowing a lot from the Disney playbook on how they're building this park. Although in some of the concept art, I can already see some of its shortcomings because Universal isn't always consistent with its quality. That being said, this Universal park showing up makes me so excited because it adds competition to the marketplace. And whenever that happens, the fan is the one who wins. So the war, the duel, it's just fan nonsense. Because I will guarantee you that Bob Iger and Josh D'Amaro will probably be there on opening day, guaranteeing, congratulating them on what a beautiful park they made and what a great addition it is to the great city of Orlando. Like, this Universal thing is a win for everybody. And what we're going to see at D23 isn't like we're going to make a park because they're making a park. But we are going to see some maybe elevated budgets or some elevated experiences because they're like, oh, the number 2 car is getting really close to us. We need to put our foot on the gas and pull ahead a little bit. And we win. We all win in that. So the whole like Hatfield and McCoys, I don't know. I just think it's an immature way to look at all this.
Yeah, no, well said, Brickey. And here's the thing too. It's kind of an opportunity, I think, for Disneyland Resort, this whole Epic Universe thing, because this park and those hotels, is separate from their main resort. It's I don't know exactly how long of a drive it is, but there's going to be like a dedicated bus line and the whole thing. It gives Disneyland Resort an opportunity to sort of study how Universal's handling that distance for the possibility of a third park here in Anaheim. They can look at that and kind of take from it what works, what doesn't.
Yeah, I think, there are companies that go out there and take big swings because they're trying to establish themselves. And then there are companies that can sit back, study the marketplace, and then make a move when they're ready to make a move because they don't have to be forced to make a move. And, anybody who thinks that Epic Universe is going to make Disney run out and build a 5th gate, I can't see it. And if they do it, I would tell them that they're stupid.
Yeah.
What they're going to do is they're going to sit back, they're going to watch this, and then they're going to make some adjustments. I mean, when they built the, Harry Potter land and they elevated the theme park experience, it took them a while to make Galaxy's Edge, but eventually they got there and they did it, but they did it with confidence. Although they didn't quite nail a butterbeer rival because blue milk is horrible. And on opening day, when I went in there and they served it to me in the cup, I looked over at my butt and go, these cups literally look like right before they opened Galaxy's Edge, somebody's like, oh shit, somebody run to Sam's Club. We need to get cups.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. Oh man. You're right though. I mean, they were handed such a like golden goose when it came to the butterbeer thing, right?
Yeah.
Because it's sexier. Butterbeer. It even just sounds more delicious than blue milk. Like, who wants to drink milk, right? I don't know.
90 degrees and I'm standing in the sun. Can't wait to drink milk.
Right, exactly. CK Barry here with a $10 donation. Thank you so much, CK Barry. We do appreciate you. Carry on, friends. Off to see Deadpool and Wolverine. Great discussion. We'll catch the replay. 1313. Awesome. Thank you so much, CK. We appreciate you.
And you won't be disappointed with Deadpool and Wolverine. I saw it this past weekend. It's phenomenal.
Best post-pandemic Marvel movie. It felt like Marvel was back. And my complaint with all the Marvel movies I've seen since the pandemic is they've all been very smaller characters. You could tell that they were filmed during social distancing. Like, The Doctor Strange movie should have been epically huge. And if you rewatch that movie, you'll tell that there's never really more than 2 or 3 actors on the same soundstage at a time. That Doctor Strange movie felt incredibly small to me, like such a small film. This Deadpool and Wolverine film feels big. It feels adventurous. There's lots of people, lots of locations, going lots of places. Like, this is the return from all the pandemic weirdness. I think between this and what just happened with Inside Out, Disney's back, baby.
Yeah, well, then we got Disney Animation coming out in November with Moana 2, and that's gonna crush. I mean,
we just have to just see how far she'll go.
Yeah, exactly, dude. How far will she go?
But really quick before we move on, Brickey, while we're on the subject of Deadpool and Wolverine, what is your overall take of the characters actually in the park with the story with Deadpool?
Grow up, people.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Like, here's the thing. Everything isn't always for everybody in America, right?
Right.
And like, there are channels in my cable package that I never watch. I don't ever go over there and watch them because they're not designed for me. But I'm not angry that they're there, because you know why? I'm an adult and I can go view the content and consume what I want to consume based on my taste and my taste alone. And what everybody else is watching, I don't care. It's none of my business. So if the characters would have showed up at the park, ripping F-bombs and being, downright ornery, that probably wouldn't be a good idea. But guess what we all do? We all act like adults on our free time. And then we go to Disneyland, we try to act a little bit better because it's a family place and we're around kids. And for all these people to go, it's a place for kids. I watch an insane amount of Disney home movies to find B-roll for all of my projects. I watch more Disneyland amateur footage than anybody on planet Earth, like hours of it a day. When you look back at the opening days of Disneyland, it was way more adults than it was kids. It's always been a place for people of all ages. So this whole idea that it's a giant Chuck E. Cheese is, once again, a very immature way to look at the world. So Deadpool and Wolverine being there, who cares? They're comic book guys on their best behavior. Everybody knows what the rig is. But guess what, parents? When your kids go to bed, I know what you do. I know that you diddle and you drink and you curse. I know what you do. I know how those kids got there. Guess what? All moms have sex.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with being career oriented.
well, and here's the thing. That's a great point, Brickey. Thank you so much for that, because it's like, I see so much of that, right? Like, Disney's for kids. Well, kids love Disney, absolutely, but it's not just for kids. And you break a great analogy there when you say it's not a Chuck E. Cheese. It's not Chuck E. Cheese. Exactly. This is for everybody. It's okay to have some adult stuff in these parks. It's okay, I think, to have a themed bar or something for maybe a little bit more adult. And especially at a place like DCA, which is skewing more adult anyway with the demo. It's not an R-rated Deadpool that we're getting in the parks. It is toned down. He's still hilarious. You know what I'm saying? And the other thing too is, I've seen people complain because, well, he's an R-rated character and you're putting him in the parks and that's inappropriate. Well, here's the thing. And I made this point before on the channel, right? But in 1988, Michael Eisner felt that Who Framed Roger Rabbit was so inappropriate that he had to release it under the Touchstone Pictures banner. He wouldn't even release it under the Disney Studios branding.
Right.
So he thought it was so inappropriate, he couldn't even release it under Disney. Then he turns around and he pumps those characters into the parks with cartoon spin. That character is all over Disney's MGM Studios, the whole thing. So they essentially took an inappropriate character, inappropriate IP back then, and still put them in the parks, right? Now, I know people are going to say, well, OG, Deadpool's way more offensive. True, but back in 1988, the stuff that Roger Rabbit was doing was pretty offensive, pretty risque for that time, when animation was seen more as like kids stuff and all that. So it's a comparable thing, I think. And it's like, it's okay to take this character who maybe your kids wouldn't see Deadpool in the theater, but it's okay to see them in DCA when he's not doing like dick jokes and stuff. It's fine. It's cool. I mean, some of the video coming out of that was hilarious, where he was riding the unicorn and everything. It was hilarious. And it was
offensive to who? Offensive to who? Who decides what's offensive? If it's offensive to you, that's fine.
Right.
But you don't have to push that on to everybody else. There's something that I remember from back in school. And this is, if everybody could follow this advice, oh my God, the world would be, it's a small world and everybody would be happy singing all together. Keep your eyes on your own page. You know,
Right.
That's all you got to do. Keep your eyes on your own page. I like what I like and I enjoy it. And I don't judge anybody for what they like because I love that the world is different. I lived in the great city of Toronto for 4 years. And Toronto was trying to get an Olympics bid. And so they did one of these massive studies and surveys about the great city of Toronto. And what they learned is that I was living for 4 years in the most culturally diverse city on the globe. And I love living in Toronto because it was like living in Star Trek. When you'd walk down the street, you saw two of everybody doing whatever they're doing. And that makes the world so much better. Walt Disney loved cultural diversity. He tried to implement it wherever he could. He was way ahead of the curve on thinking that way. Disneyland is best when all different types of people come together. And this whole Disney adults bullshit, I'm an adult that works really, really hard. And what do I like to do with my free time? I want to go to a place where I have to go through a security checkpoint. So that eliminates a lot of nonsense that could go on. It's beautifully designed. Everybody there's having a great time. There's food, there's beverage, there's rides, there's shows, there's vibes. It is a beautiful park that happens to be where I live. Call me whatever you want, but I call me a person that's making an intelligent decision, even though I can't say intelligent, when I'm trying to spend my free time. So the whole Disney adult thing, I mean, there are people that adopt it and go by it, but they say it in an insulting way.
Yeah.
And it's such a lame, immature way to look at the world.
They treat you like you're some sort of man-child. Oh, grow up, kind of this kind of condescending sort of tone. It's like, look, there's a lot at these Disney parks that adults can really gain a lot of value from. You know what I'm saying? Like you focus a lot on the architecture, which that's how I got into your channel, Brickey. I love that angle of it, appreciating the architecture, the theme design, right? Even if that's not your thing, if you just go to Disney as a normie, you can have a drink at downtown Disney. Like you say, you can catch a show, you watch a parade, watch the fireworks. It's great. There's so much there for adults to do. And when people sort of put you in this box, you're just some sort of man-child because, you like Disney. You don't have any kids and what's wrong with you? It's like, there's a lot here for adults to enjoy. You know what I'm saying?
I try to explain to people that don't live in the area, and it's hard for them to get this. I'm like, I don't go to the park once a week and ride all the rides, somehow thinking they're going to be different. Like, maybe I don't escape from the Haunted Mansion this time. Like, I don't even ride the rides. It's a very beautiful park. That's where I live. So imagine I live in Manhattan and I just go to Central Park on Sundays. Does that make me a weirdo? Oh, but it's a park. There's a swing set and a slide. It's for kids. Everything's for kids. It's like, there's kids there and they're having a good time. There's adults that are having a good time. Like, Walt Disney made this place for himself and knew that if it entertained him, it would also entertain his daughters and everybody. And anyways, we're kind of getting in a tangent, but when you go back and look through the annals of history, you will see that it was way, way adult even from the beginning. But I love the controversy. I love all the infighting. It's what makes it fun to keep covering all of this.
I know. It's that beautiful chaos, We got Lucas and Disney. Lucas, friend of the channel, gifted 5 OG55 memberships. Thank you so much, Lucas. We appreciate you, sir. Thank you so much. Really kind of you.
Explain how that works to everybody, because I'm a little bit curious. So somebody comes in and they give 5 memberships. Does that get somebody a member of OG55's premium content for a month? Is that how that works?
Yeah, for a month. That is correct. And then
it gives them a free taste.
A little taste, exactly. If they like what we offered, then they can renew it on their own. But Lucas essentially gifted 5 people at least a month of it. So,
and does he pick the 5 people? How does the 5?
No, I think it's random.
It's random.
Oh,
it's
like
random.
STDs. That's cool.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Mr. Seymour Duck here. 2024 is Disney's year. Yeah, box office wise, absolutely. We got Moana coming out, Deadpool, Wolverine crushing it, Inside Out 2 already crushing it. Yeah, 100%, Mr. Duck, 100%. Lovelo here says, hey, Brickey, if Disney offered you a job, I love this question, by the way. If Disney offered you a job to redesign a classic Disneyland ride, would you take it? If so, what would it be?
I got news for people. If Disney offered me a job, I'd probably have to say no.
Interesting.
Because
okay.
One, they would squash the YouTube right away. So that would be done. And I love my YouTube channel. It's been one of the most creative and fun ventures I've ever been on. Two, if you get too close to something that you love, you'll learn to hate it. And I was an artist for the Wonderground Gallery for a maybe 18-month tenure, did 4 projects. Then when they handed me more projects, I go, I'm going to go ahead and quit. And they're like, what? Really? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I just wanted to work for you long enough to be able to brag to say that I was an illustrator for Disney, but I don't want to work long enough here to hate it. And I'm still having fun. So now's a good time to leave. So when people watch my videos and they somehow think that I'm auditioning for a job at Disney, I don't think I want a job at Disney because I don't think it would be as much fun as people think that it would be. And the amount of creative control you get is just a very small corner. And there's so much, like, Disney is a small city, right? Or a small government. So with government, you have politics. So the amount of politics you probably have to play to be like, you see Tiana's Bayou Adventure? I'm the one that picked where that pumpkin went on the river. Like, you probably end up getting to do such a little small part of it all that I just wanted to let people know I'm in no way auditioning for a Disney job, and I would tell them no, and I'm definitely not moving to Orlando. But in the fairness of all of this, if they did have brought me on as a freelancer to redesign something, I think that I could work on Tomorrowland and make something that would last the long haul. I feel confident that I know enough about the past, the present, the future. I know enough about architecture. I know enough about IP. I'm not some dumb fan that's delusioned about everything. Like, I feel like I could work with them in a freelance capacity to get Tomorrowland where it needs to go, honor Walt's vision, honor the legacy of Disneyland, and honor something that could at least make it 3 to 5 decades.
I'm very curious, Brickey, on your thoughts. I don't know if you've seen it. The Comic-Con the other day, they showed some images and some footage of Fantastic Four.
I only saw the illustrations. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. Yeah. And there were some leaked footage too. But if you saw the illustrations, that should be enough. I'm curious what your thoughts on that are, because it sort of has like this mid-century kind of like retro future kind of vibe to it, right?
Yeah.
Is there any chance, you think, in your opinion, that we see anything related, assuming this movie does well, right?
Yeah.
$1 billion movie, whatever. It's a huge hit, right? Do you think you could possibly see something like that in Tomorrowland? Speaking of Tomorrowland?
Do I think they would put Avengers in there? Or I'm sorry, Marvel characters in Tomorrowland?
Fantastic Four specifically, because it kind of had that retro future vibe in that film. Yeah. Would that work, one? And number two, would they even do that? Or is it more of a DCA thing, you think?
Okay, so this gets into a more complicated conversation. If once again, I'm consulting for Disney and they say this is our idea, and I go, okay, that's a cool idea. And no doubt fans are going to get excited. That's going to pop. But how does that play into all the other pieces? Because the problem with Tomorrowland right now is no two pieces really jive together. So either we're going to make it all superheroes in mid-century, or this is a very bad idea. So they need to watch like the piecemeal, like, they're holding on to these buildings like they're like precious jewels.
Yeah.
And I think at some point they need to bulldoze it and reboot it, but reboot it with like, what's your long-term plan? Like, are you going to honor like the mid-century optimism? But if you're going to do that, there has to be some sort of IP in there. And fans are going to get mad at me for saying that, but we just live in a world where kids and young adults only understand characters that they've seen on little screens and big screens. We're not in the world anymore where it could just be like, it's a rocket. People be like, why do I care about a rocket? Right? It's not going to move the needle. So Fantastic Four would need to be a part of a much larger plan. And then I'd have to question, so we're going to do a Avengers hallway and then retro Marvel across the way. Like, what am I doing? What am I telling my customer here? That's very, very confusing. Like, well, then let's just throw a Star Wars land across the Esplanade too. Like, let's just completely confuse everybody. So I think that's just more about, that was sort of the Renaissance time of that comic. And it would be cool to see a movie that's set in that timeline, because then does that enter into the modern timeline? You know what I mean? Like, it could just kind of be more of a more complex storytelling, but I'm not putting that in Tomorrowland.
Okay, interesting. Neetson M here says, I'd love it if they would bring Encanto, Coco, and Three Caballeros attraction to DCA. For the life of me, I have no idea why they don't have a Latin attraction or land in DCA. It's a park
Best food ever,
right?
Best food ever.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. I mean, it would be absolutely incredible. What say you, George? What do you think?
Again, yeah, I don't know why it hasn't already been implemented. I don't know why they just won't transform the Paradise Gardens area into that kind of section already. I feel like that part of the park is kind of has an identity crisis, so to speak, because you have Pixar Pier, and then it circles around to Paradise Gardens, which you have Goofy's Sky School, Silly Symphony Swings. What's the Silver Plains? I'm drawing a blank.
Oh,
Golden Zephyrs.
Yeah.
Sickest ride, dude. I'm like, oh, we're gonna make the turn? Hell yeah, we made one. Can we make the second one? Hell yeah, we did two. Can we get three? Hell yeah. Oh, it's time. The ride's over.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. The wind's blowing. Shut down.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you work your way over, and then you have OG. I know you're gonna bust my balls for it, but then you have the Little Mermaid attraction, and it just feels like there's incohesiveness around that area. So I just feel like if you were to, but if they were to have like a Hispanic Latin culture where you implement Coco, it fits in with Pixar, and I don't know. That's just my take on it. And honestly, if they wanted to keep the swings, because I enjoy the Silly Symphony swings. I'm sorry, judge me but I enjoy those. But if you wanted to kind of theme it, keep the swings and theme it to something Pixar, design the structure to make it look like the Up House, and then the swings you sit on in the back of the chairs have like a backpack for the Wilderness Explorers.
See, I thought you were going to go differently. You're going to go Latino. And you're going to be like, I want them to be called the sombrero swings. And it'd just be a giant sombrero with everybody just swinging around at the bottom of it, which would look like those little, like, little dingleberries that go around like the lowrider interior. We'd just be swinging around on those giant sombreros.
Why didn't I think of that?
Exactly. And friend of the channel, Jay Shear, host of the Story Geek Show here on OG55. Jace here says, will Brickey admit that he's in the Deadpool costume at DCA?
If I wasn't so fat, I could for sure do that. I could riff with people all day long at Avengers Hallway, but Brickey need a lot of duct tape to fit. I would be wearing like Spanx on Spanx to get the old man gut inside that little red suit.
And Jesse Adventure, thank you so much for the $2 super chat, Jesse. Hey Brickey, what's the plan for Halloween Ball 2024?
Oh no, Halloween Ball! Get the hell out of here, dude. There is a tradition on my channel that is called Pumpkin Ball. What I do is I take a clicker and I walk down Main Street, USA, and I prove to everybody, count every pumpkin because every pumpkin counts. And I count all of the pumpkins. Now, last time we did Pumpkin Ball, there was a problem, and we had to do it in downtown Disney, which resulted in so many more pumpkins. The Pumpkin Ball is the annual counting of the pumpkins. And this is where it gets really contentious. A Mickey pumpkin is one pumpkin because the ears are appendages. So there's always big arguments in the live stream chat of like, is that one pumpkin or is that trace pumpkins? But Pumpkin Ball matters because every pumpkin counts. And even though I haven't been live streaming on Hey Brickey because I've been really focused in on my new content strategies, and it has been a breakout year for the channel, I can promise you this, Jesse, there will be merch and there will be Pumpkin Ball.
There we go. Yes, absolutely. And Girly Nerd here says, can we get rid of most of Pixar Pier?
How dare you, Girly Nerd? How dare you? How dare you tell me you don't like the emotional whirlwind or Jesse's critter carousel? Huh? How dare you tell me that, Girly Nerd? I'm doubting your nerdom. You actually sound too cool for school, my friend.
Yeah, I personally, I wish they would, Girly Nerd, but I don't think that's coming anytime soon. I think we'll see likely the Avatar stuff. Avengers e-ticket, but yeah, I think Pixar Pier is probably here to stay. Another thing too, another element of Pixar Pier is that fun wheel or Pixar pal around as they call it now is like one of the most Instagrammed locations on earth, and they're not getting rid of their bread and butter, babe. You know,
I would say, George, back me up on this. I would say that if you are rooting for Pixar to leave that area, you're rooting the wrong way, because the way that I see it, more Pixar will follow, especially in conjunction with the hotel being the backdrop. So at some point, the swings, Jump Jelly, the whole Plaza Gardens area, like, to me, that all is working and it's functional, and they still keep painting it and picking up the trash. But all of that is earmarked for something else. There's no way
it has to be
10 years from now that stuff is still all sitting there. No way.
So the jellyfish, the Goofy Sky School, and that food court, you think is going to be gone in 10, 15?
Yeah, I mean, Pixar is such a epically huge brand, and that is enough land to either retheme all those things to Pixar, which would be a horrible mistake because it's all off the shelf other than Goofy. But if you thought of all of that as a way to really expand out the pier, why would they not do that? And once again, you want to sell tickets to the Disneyland Resort. You want a family from Europe to be like, oh, why don't we try out going to Disneyland? Put in all their favorite Pixar properties in that one little cul-de-sac with cars over there. I mean, that is just what that park is designed to be. It's the identity of that park. And best of all, it keeps all that shit out of Disneyland.
There you go. There you go.
and honestly, I want something to I want something more for Inside Out. You know, I was going to say Inside Out 2, but I meant like the TOO, not the sequel. But I love the sequel. But I just think for how successful that the sequel is on the back of the already successful first one, you know, I wish we would have got something a little bit more than just emotional whirlwind. And then even at Epcot, I mean, they could put Inside Out into the Wonders of Light pavilion. You know, they could they could revamp the Making of Me. I mean, they could like turn it into a ride where we sit in these spermobiles and like just go through like
the holes.
Yeah.
There you go.
I George, I think you're absolutely right though. I think if there is a great property that's super popular that is a shoe-in for the front half of Epcot, it's Inside Out. I mean, that it's in that like education entertainment space.
Yeah, no, 100%. Exactly. And it basically does two things where like it satisfies Burbank because it's an IP, so you can sell the merch, you can sell the cute little anxiety dolls and all that, right? But it also respects Epcot with it being very educational and what have you. It really is the best of both worlds. So yeah, it would be perfect. I mean, hopefully they do it. We'll see. Sam Chat with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Sam Chat. Love Hey Brickey's point when it comes to diversity and Walt Disney's passion for it. Yeah, no, I absolutely. And he's right. Walt was ahead of the curve with that, ahead of his time for that. I mean, he was making Three Caballeros and Saludos Amigos back in, what was that, like the 40s? 40s. I mean, you know. I mean,
Walt wasn't perfect. Nobody is. Some of his beliefs were of a man of his time.
Yep.
I mean, what do you want him to do? Be a like a time traveler like T-Ron? But Walt Disney displayed what a lot of intelligent people displayed. He traveled around the world, fell in love with world travel, and when he would find something that he loved, he wanted to bring it back home to America, make Americans like appreciate something and get a different spin on something. And, you know, the whole idea with Disneyland was like, it was like traveling around the world without having to go very far. You know what I mean? And so many things that he brought back to Disneyland were just items that he found on his world travels. It's like, man, this Matterhorn Mountain is great. What if we put a roller coaster inside of it? I mean, you know, the idea of Disneyland comes from Tivoli Gardens. You know, I mean, the whole thing was just a rich guy going around the world going, oh, I'd love to share this with people back in the States. So he had such a great view of different people because he left his little corner of the world and he went there. And don't forget, you know, Disney's born in a broke family in the Midwest. And instantly he realized that area was too small for his dreams. So, you know, let's do what Disney does and simplify it. Suitcase in the dream. He comes out west, kind of does the whole Hollywood thing, but he had that creative itch, you know, like he got bored with movies after a while and wanted to do something different. So the whole idea of Disneyland is based off of world exploration. What are other cultures, other people doing, and how can I share it with all my friends back in California? And how can I make a safe space that a family can come to, and in one day they can travel to the moon, they can travel to the Nile, they can go over to Louisiana, they can travel through the rivers of America. They can see the old American frontier. They can go someplace they could never go anywhere else, into a world of fantasy. So the whole thing was designed to just mentally take you to all these different little nooks and these little points of interest that Walt Disney loved.
Absolutely. And now, what would be the chance? Could you imagine, like, if Walt was alive and he pitched Small World in this day and age, how woke would they make him out to be? Look at this woke guy over here, the globalism in our Disney parks. I mean, that would just be like, it's just funny to me how things have, if you do the same thing today, it would be a completely different, situation. Go ahead, George. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, you're good. And to Brickey's point, I mean, Walt Disney himself even said it. There was audio I remember listening to when he was talking about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and he said, when a film is done, it's over. Yep. He said, Snow White is dead to me. It's completed. I can't change that film. But with the parks, it's an evergreen kind of playground, so to speak, where it evolves and grows. The trees and the plants and the flowers bloom. It gets beautiful each year. So that was his mentality. It's not that he didn't enjoy animation and making films, but it's like once it's done, that product is done. Where the parks, it allowed him to kind of explore a little bit more by changing as time went on and technology became part of the progress
and tweaking stuff. And yeah, absolutely. Numby Juice here says, can Disney add more coasters to Disneyland to compete with Universal Fast and Furious coaster? Here's my thing, Numby. I don't like this idea. And a lot of people do this with Epic Universe too. Oh, they're building a park, Disney has to build a park. That kind of mentality. I don't think Disney has to add more coasters because Universal's adding more coasters. Disney needs to do what Disney needs to do and do what Disney does best. Heavily immersive, heavily themed things. That's how you compete with Universal. You don't compete with Universal or beat Universal by trying to chase Universal's tail. That's just my opinion. So no, I don't think that we need to add more coasters because Universal is doing it. But what are your thoughts on that, Brickey?
I think that where Disney by the way, perfectly put, Universal has made themselves the roller coaster type of theme park, right? And like you said, they have no chill. It's either for babies or you're going 100 miles an hour through digital screens that makes everybody sick. What Disney excels at is storytelling. And my biggest problem with roller coasters it's very hard to tell stories on roller coasters. You either set up an overall theme like the Matterhorn or Space Mountain, but like the Incredicoaster, who's really picking up on what's happening around you when you're going that fast and you're going upside down? So for me, I do believe that storytelling is the Disney difference. It's why I spend so much time like following the park and its architecture and the way that it's designed, because stories invoke emotions, stories, music, visuals. It's what puts you someplace different. I'm just not a thrill rides guy, and that's why I fell in love with Disneyland. There's a handful of attractions there and they do their best. Big Thunder Mountain is actually a pretty perfect idea of how to implement story, but also kind of give you a thrill. And luckily for me, if it had one more turn, I don't think physically I could ride it. But, when Universal was kind of finding their place in the market, they said, well, we can't beat Disney in storytelling. We'll beat them in thrills. And if Universal stays on that thrill path and Disney stays on that storytelling path, I think once again, the consumer wins.
Yeah. You get, that variety. What say you, Italiano?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel as much as I am a coaster junkie and a thrill seeker, but when it comes to overall storytelling and immersiveness, I think Disney does it best when they do it in the Disney style, and it's like with their dark rides, their boat rides, their new technological kind of ride systems, but they do it in a way where it doesn't it doesn't hinder the storyline, but the storyline doesn't hinder the actual experience of the ride itself. And I feel like that's where Universal kind of misses that mark when they try to hit it with a coaster, because it's like, okay, because Disney doesn't utilize the coasters, it's like, how can we separate ourselves from them? Oh yeah, let's make bigger, taller, faster, edgier roller coasters. Okay, that's great, that's fine, but it's going to kill the overall assumption of storyline and immersiveness.
And you bring up a good point. When Universal was trying to separate themselves from Disney, they also went into screen technologies very hard, very early, and kind of try to plant their flag in that world. And, Disney does have some screen-based rides, but they try to use it in a different storytelling device than Universal does. Kyle the Mighty over in the OG55 chat pointed out that Guardians does tell a story in a roller coaster, and he's absolutely right. That one, they really nailed it and they put it together. But keep in mind too, Kyle, that part of that was that Guardians is an omnimover on steroids. So that really gets into the storytelling device that they built a ride vehicle that would lend them to, not keep the guest in a linear roller coaster experience, but actually be able to rotate the cart around for storytelling. So, I mean, that just goes to show the emphasis on storytelling. Whenever we're done with this comment, could you please put that Will guy back up? Because he's been active in the chat tonight. I don't want him to feel like he got skipped.
Absolutely. And Jay here says, to Brickey's point, Disney's best coasters have awesome storytelling. Even Rock and Roller Coaster gave you an interesting story. Have you been on that, Brickey?
Dude, the only thing I hate more than racism is Aerosmith.
Right. Hey, George's idea is to turn it into a Goofy movie, which I think would be freaking amazing.
I want it to be like Powerline eccentric, kind of like where you have to travel with Goofy and Max. You have to race through to get to the concert. They're listening to Powerline on the radio, and it's like when you're with Goofy, what really can happen?
I've never been to Disney Hollywood Studios when Rock and Roller Coaster was operational. I know that it will make me sick because it goes upside down. And I also know that it will make me sick because it's a roller coaster in the dark. But my rule is you got to ride them all once. But I really do hate Aerosmith. So it's the combination of knowing that this thing is 100% going to wreck my evening. And it's the worst rock band ever. So I'm hoping that the licensing goes away. You guys answer Will's comment here, because then I want to talk directly to Will, because he comments on a lot of my videos, and I want to have a conversation with him real quick. So you guys go first, and then I'll hit it up. Absolutely.
Real quick, I do want to say, when I wrote Cosmic Rewind, and George can vouch, you think I'm white now. When I got off of that thing, I was like 3 shades whiter. Oh God, that thing was so intense. Unbelievable. But Real Rotani here says, Wreck-It Ralph is something that I have been thinking that could be interesting fit for Tomorrowland or DCA. Interesting, Will. For Tomorrowland, see, it's interesting fit for Tomorrowland because it really isn't the future, right? So you would be going in a much more technology-based sort of land, I think. Interesting move. I mean, I think it probably works just as good as maybe Buzz Lightyear does in a sense, right? I don't know. Interesting idea. I don't know if I would love it, but interesting idea. DCA would be interesting. You could probably put it into maybe Toy Story Land. I mean, not Toy Story Land, Hollywood Land. That might work. And actually, I think I might even prefer that in DCA because number one, I think DCA needs it more, way more. Something like for the whole family, number one. And number two, I don't know. It'd give a little variety over there in Hollywood Land. But what say you, Italiano? Then we'll go to Brickey.
For me, I can take it or leave it, to be honest. I don't really think it kind of fits in with Tomorrowland, just with Wreck-It Ralph. I was kind of scratching my head at it when they were making the announcement that Buzz Lightyear was going to become Wreck-It Ralph over in Tomorrowland. But if it, not in the domestics, but internationally,
right?
Was it in is it Tokyo?
It was yeah. Was it Tokyo? Yeah, I believe it was Tokyo.
Okay, yeah. One of them, but yeah. So one out of the three. But I just I don't feel that it fits in well with the overall storyline of like the aesthetics of Tomorrowland, but really what does, I think that's Tomorrowland's biggest issue right now. But
they got to get a clear vision for what that land is, and then you can start putting in the IP and all that.
And honestly, I don't really have a problem with the IP of Wreck-It Ralph in general, but I'm kind of like over and done with like shooter attractions. I'm so done with it. We got Buzz Lightyear, then we got Toy Story Mania, which is the same Toy Story IP, but it's just up the level to Buzz Lightyear's, and then we got Web Slingers. It's like I don't need another shooter attraction. I'm like so over it.
Well said, Brickey. You have the floor, sir.
So I want to talk to Will about something. Will, I appreciate you watching my videos and proved everybody that I read all the comments. Will he kind of scratches one of the itches I have in my comment section, and that when I make videos, I try to tell a very specific story. And I don't know if people notice, but I work really hard on the edits, and I try to make it as fast and as much information as possible, because there's nothing worse than when you watch a Disney video and you feel like it was 45 minutes to give you 45 seconds worth of information. So I really try to put a lot in there. And Will is like a lot of other folks who watch the video. So I'm not picking on Will, but there's a segment of the audience that always has the same sort of comment. I want to kind of reply back to it so Will understands where my mindset is as a creator. So when I make a video, people love to go, you forgot this part of the story, or you forgot this, you didn't mention this. And I would always say, I didn't forget it. That's another video. And I try to keep things really, really specific into one small story, because the way that YouTube works and is successful is you make a bunch of videos that all link together. So like my Tomorrowland video, if I would have talked about what you suggest, Will, the original Disney tunnel at the studios, that's another video. And guess what? When I make that video talking about this tunnel at the studios, at the end of that video, I go, oh, but this wasn't Disney's last tunnel, because you have to check out this video here where I show when Disney put an experimental tunnel inside of Disneyland. And then that video kicks over to the utilidors. And then another video is all the basements on Main Street. So I have this big chart of where all the videos go and how they all tie together. So when people comment a video and they go, this is what you forgot, and they don't say, nice video, or I enjoyed it, or I wish you would have covered this. When they just go in and say, this is what you forgot, kind of rubs me the wrong way, because you got to keep in mind, I just worked 4 or 5 days really, really hard on delivering a very specific story. And for somebody to go in there and tell me the piece that I forgot, I don't know. It kind of makes me feel like you're not with me, you're against me, or you're trying to one up me, or you didn't like the story you just got, you want to get another story. So I just wanted to let Will and other people know when they put that in there, oh, I know, baby. I got it all charted out. I'm making 10,000 Disney videos, not one real long one. Because if I made one video that showed every underground structure Disney ever made, then where do I go if that video is successful? There's only so many holes in the ground. So right. Will, just wanted to kind of share you in a long form, something I could never take the time to like write out and type because I'm not a very good writer. Just want to kind of give you the idea of why things get skipped, why I tell certain parts of the story. And also like, I don't mind you telling me that, but it'd also be nice. I did enjoy the thing I just saw, because I feel like all you're doing is pointing out what I did wrong and not giving me any sort of like thumbs up for what I just did.
Hey, that's fair. That's fair. I get some of that too in my comment section. So I see what you're saying here. There's a way to go about it. You know, sometimes you just, hey, look, great video, but you know, could we have seen this as well, or something like that, instead of just maybe jumping in there and just, hey, you forgot this, you know?
Yeah. And Will in the chat just said, got you. You're the man, Brickey, not trying to rub you the wrong way. And that's the thing. I just wanted to share with him, like, how I perceive that as somebody like, I just worked on this for 5 days. I just uploaded it. I can't wait to see what people say. And they go, you forgot the other tunnel.
Right. Well said. Well said. Now, our good friend, Jay Shear says, Brickey is Disney Park Jesus.
No. Don't tell me that, because that'll get me. No. I mean, it is true that one time I did get a Filet-O fish and I broke it in half and gave it to one other person, but don't get me in that controversy. I am Disney's Brickey, not Disney's Brickey Jesus.
They're trying to get you canceled, man. They're Disneyland Messiah now? What's going on over here?
Could you imagine if my magic band fell right through the hole in my hand?
Exactly. Oh man,
you wouldn't even worry about Moana. You'd just be walking on the water yourself.
I would be. Here's the thing: if I somehow one day realize, like, oh my God, I got picked to be the Messiah, all I'm doing is straight up entering every water skiing contest I can get into. And I will just go across the country, highway to heaven style. I'll do good deeds along the way, but I'm just going to have so much water skiing money where I like roll into town as a drifter and be like, amateur water skiing competition. Wait till you see what this kid's got.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, curious, creative, not talented. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Forget a shooter attraction. What about retheming Autopia to Vanellope Sugar Crush Racers? Oh, interesting idea. Personally, hey, look, and a lot of people defend Autopia. They want to stay. We get a lot of retheme ideas. Personally,
OG wants to take a sledgehammer to it.
I want it gone. It takes up a lot of real estate. And
Autopia?
Yeah.
Oh, bro.
Yeah.
Bro, I've done the numbers on it. So this is the thing that I did before. And I want people to think about this objectively. Autopia is the same size of all the streets on Main Street USA, or all the shops on Main Street USA. It is the same size pretty much as Toontown. It's almost the same size of Adventureland. So let me just pose this to you guys real quick, because I love giving people this fun fact.
Yeah.
If you go to the park and you don't ride Autopia, you basically skipped an entire land. And when you do go there and you do ride it, you went to an entire land and you never spent any money. So if you take Autopia out, you could put 2 attractions, 3 shops, and a restaurant in there.
Yeah.
Or you could have cars that go 4 miles an hour with a rail in the middle, so you're not even really driving it.
And what does Disney pick? The obvious choice.
Well, here's the thing. You're right. I mean, that's why I was saying they should put. See, that's where I would have put. This is where I would put Avatar. I would get rid of everything from the lagoon all the way to the motorboats, because I think Avatar as a franchise really does kind of have that. It would be the perfect kind of transition between fantasy and tomorrow. I think that franchise kind of sits on both a little bit, right? So that's where I would go with it. But here's the thing. You're absolutely right. You could put theoretically a Pandora there. You could put theoretically a Frozen there. Now you're cooking with some gas. Now you get the themed Arendelle restaurant made. Right, you got the themed Arendelle restaurant making buco bucks, right? You got the Frozen merch in there. You're making money hand over fist. How much are those Autopia shirts making the park? Not much. Dude,
imagine what like Beauty and the Beast would make versus Autopia, or as they said on opening day, Autotopia.
Autotopia.
I'll keep it short, but I think Tomorrowland should become the West Coast version of like an Epcot. It should reinforce that World's Fair type of vibe, right? It could be done in a way where it could last a long time. And my vision of that is the Autopia cars become electric. They could become, autonomous or whatever, like the cars we have out on the road today. But I see the Autopia as being the replacement for the People Mover, and not staying on one defined track, but actually going all around whatever the new Tomorrowland is. That way, you keep an opening day classic. You give people back the People Mover that they want, but in a different type of vibe, because it's a vibe ride is what I'm talking about, essentially. But then you open up an enormous amount of land to put in like a serious, well-themed land. Maybe you keep the subs, maybe you don't, but the lagoon definitely stays because it's a visual breaker. But keeping Autopia, and I did a video about it because I'm like, if Autopia stays the way that it is, and everyone's like, yeah, it's going electric, that could tell you right off the bat that Tomorrowland is staying the exact same way for another 5 to 10 years. Right. Because the cars are going electric. That means either Honda has re-signed their contract, and Honda has a fleet of very, very sleek EVs coming to the market. They're late to it, but they're showing up with some really great cars at affordable prices. So once again, I made a video that's like, you want the People Mover to come back? Careful what you wish for. Because if the People Mover came back the way it is now, we're stuck with this version of Tomorrowland, this layout, for another 2 decades. Yeah. So I think all this needs to be very, very fluid. And the amount of jokes in the chat right now about me being Disneyland Jesus is insane. Absolutely insane.
I absolutely love it. Will Rotani here. This is a great comment. People never argue with people they don't care about, right? And that's very true. You get a lot of passionate, you're doing your job right as a creator when you get a lot of anger. I'm so mad. Your opinion is this, that, and the other. If there's a lot of passion one way or the other, you're doing your job right. You have invoked emotion. And that is so vital to being a great content creator. So if you have people in your chat wanting to argue with you, they're mad at you because you didn't like Epic Universe or this, that, and the other, you're doing your job. You invoked enough emotion in that person for them to want to engage. And that's, I think, good. I think it's a sign of a great creator. What say you, Brickey?
I will say you're absolutely right. If you make a video and nobody talks about it, it's a horrible video. If you make a video and some people are like, oh, this is great, this is awesome, and other people are like, no, I don't agree with you. That's what you want.
Yeah.
But it is important to let people know before you argue with them that you're on their side, because you also got to keep in mind that creators get so many people that come in and like just say the most horrendous, mean things about you just to make you feel like crap. So I'm all for constructive criticism. I'm all for creating dialogue, but it's also nice to let somebody know before you get into that you're buds. Cause then you go, oh, it's friendly fire. I understand where it's at. Cause look at Will's avatar. Every time I read a comment from Will, because of the way he's doing his mouth, I feel like he goes, what about the tunnel at the movies? What about that tunnel in Burbank, Brickey? God damn it, you didn't put it in there. What about that tunnel? Like, I just see that. You know what you forgot? You forgot the Skyway to Tomorrowland.
That's great. That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
And I'm not picking on Will. Will just does that sometimes, but it's kind of an overall theme of. But now I know Will's my homeboy. So next time he does it, I'll be like, yeah, he's right. But I'll also just write back Will, winky face. That's another video.
winky. And Will here says, I wouldn't say if I didn't love you, bro.
No, so, Will's a good dude, man. But
much love.
Look at that avatar and imagine him saying something negative.
Right. Love it. Hey, our good friend Tones Poppy is in the house at Bad Thought Studio. Boys, what's one superhero origin story that needs a movie, and would you put it in as a ride?
The karate lesson. When Daniel's son took that one karate lesson in New Jersey before he moved to California.
There we go. Hey, we can have a Disney Park Jesus origin story. I think it'd be pretty cool, Brickey. You know,
that is not sticking.
What say you, Italiana? Or do you not like origin stories? Is it not your bag, baby?
Yeah, I could take it or leave it, to be honest.
Yeah. Nothing in particular that you'd want to.
No, not really. I don't think so.
And Mr. J Shear here says, I've got a lot of jokes. But I'm dead serious. The Rocketeer ride.
Oh my God. No, saying the Rocketeer is the Disney fans version going, free bird. Oh man. Yeah. The Rocketeer is like the cult classic that so many hardcore fans are holding on to. Like they want it so bad. And it's just one of those things like when people are like, well, I mean, they should turn the lagoon into Treasure Planet. And it's like, dream that dream, baby girl. Dream that dream.
I love it. MCC 309 here says, I think the third gate should be where underrepresented Renaissance stories are. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. That's interesting. I mean, that could work. Yeah, that could work. So, like Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. I mean, pretty much the whole Renaissance era, basically. Because
they don't use none of it.
What's up with that, man? I mean, it's such a great. The only other time that Disney was in the zone like that was when Walt actually cared about making movies. Like that first rip is that right. Good, and then he kind of like drifts off and is a rich guy and becomes eccentric and plays with trains in his backyard, and they kind of fall apart, and then they hit the Renaissance era, and then they get another like stretch, and none of that stuff is represented in the park. Like everybody loves animals, so like the Lion King just seems, and the Pride Rock is like such a cool icon. I mean, it's
Oh my gosh. Man. And you could, like I've said so many times on the channel, but like you could utilize the Indiana Jones ride system for a dope Lion King attraction. Like you're on a safari and you're going through, because Lion King needs something big like that, I think, right? So you would have the Indiana Jones style ride. The music is playing. You got the animatronic Scar and Mufasa, and oh gosh, it would just be absolute perfection. Absolute perfection. Where there's rumors though, George, what park is it? Paris? That's Paris. Rumored to get the Lion King?
Yeah, the Studios Park, which is supposed to be World Adventure or Adventure World, one of the two.
It is a horrible park.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I've seen video. I've seen I've seen photos. It is not, especially that Cars attraction, kind of like a knockoff to the Backlot Studios. Oh my gosh! Like
I went on that thing when it was the Backlot Studio Tours, and it was mind-numbing what a bad attraction it was. Like when I went to Paris and I went over there and I did that park first, we went straight to Ratatouille because I wanted to see the first ever like trackless ride. It was cool.
Yeah.
We had food over there and then we ripped that park and I was like, what in the hell? There was like an Armageddon themed ride. I mean, it was absolutely insane. And then I got over to Disneyland Paris and all my problems went away. But yeah, that park could use it. But man, I can't believe that they just ignore that Renaissance era. And they're kind of missing that window, right? Because, you know, those were movies when I was a young person and I'm no longer young. So they're kind of, that window's kind of closing up. And I can't believe for the life of me why they've just ignored all that great IP.
Yeah, and the crazy thing too, Brickey, is those stories have proven themselves twice almost, right? Like, so the original Renaissance run was hugely successful. It really kind of rebuilt the Disney brand, right? But then they go on to do the live action movies, you know, Beauty and the Beast, even Lion King, and those movies are even, you know, pulling $1 billion. Yeah, it's like how many more signs do you need, Disney, that the people like these franchises? Like, go build the Lion King ride, bring us Beauty and the Beast. I don't understand it. I really don't.
But to answer your question, OG, yeah, they're supposedly making a Pride Lands themed area in the World Adventure Park, formerly known as the Walt Disney Studios.
Yeah,
Park.
And I heard it was a boat ride, which is kind of a weird choice for Lion King. I don't know why. I don't think of Lion King as a boat ride, but we'll see. I mean, that's just a rumor.
Yeah, I mean, don't they live someplace where there's a shortage of water?
Yeah, right. It just seems like a weird choice.
That's sand ride.
Exactly. Can we get it? Exactly. Let's get a sand ride. You know, this is crazy.
I mean, they either need to build a Lion King ride or they need to put shock collars on the lions at Animal Kingdom because they're way too lazy to be entertainers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That is a joke. That is seriously a joke. I do not want them shocking the lions so a bunch of people from Ohio can ride by in a Jeep and go, there they are on the rocks.
Not to get too far off topic, though, but that Kilimanjaro safari, I've only been to Walt Disney World one time with this guy, the Italiano. And I got to say, man, first of all of Animal Kingdom, absolutely beautiful. But that safari is incredible. I loved it.
It's probably my wife's favorite Disney ride. I mean, she just goes nuts seeing all the animals. You can ride it 3 times in one day and get an entirely different experience. I'm not a big zoo person, but the way that the animals have their ecosystems and all laid out. And I really love the savannah where like all the animals that can get along just have that like big open area where they can come and go, and then they can just go dip over to the DVC hotel if they want to hang out over there and, you know, rip some bread service. Like it's pretty amazing. My only big critique about Animal Kingdom is it's the only Disney park that's one note the whole way through. Doesn't matter where you're at. It's the same everywhere except for Avatar. But then that gets in a whole different question of, did that break it? And then people go, but don't you forget, there was a dragon on the front gate. So they always had a plan they was going to put other animals inside there. So if they put in them aliens, they're going to be all right, man.
Exactly. Oh, I love it. I love it. BJ Vincent here says, my D23 prediction wish would be, since they closed the Beast Library attraction at DCA, they would build a clone of the Enchanted Tale of Beauty and the Beast ride. Yeah, I mean, that would be
a hell of an upgrade.
Yeah, exactly.
We got rid of a library that nobody went to, and then we just gave you an entire ride and replaced it.
That would be a huge upgrade. Lucas and Disney with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Lucas. We do appreciate you, sir. Brickey, this is for you, sir. What's your opinion of bringing Japanese IP into Disney World and Disneyland, such as Kingdom Hearts, One Piece, or Final Fantasy, as a ride?
Well, you know, I have a strict America First theme park attractions policy. Dude, I know that.
Sorry to interrupt you, Brickey, but there is a drop for America First.
Oh, God.
There you go.
The sound of freedom, baby. So I know that One Piece is a huge success over on Netflix. Not really sure who owns the rights to it. And I am somebody who's very, very intrigued with Japanese culture. Like, if I could go anywhere on the planet, I would want to go to Japan, because to me, it feels like the closest I could get to going to another planet. You know what I mean? Like, just the architecture, the design, the system of, you know, politeness and all. Like, it couldn't be further from what I experience every day. And going to Japan is on my like bucket list, dreams of dreams. I want to go there so bad. It's always been a place I've wanted to go. I had plans to go, but something weird happened 2020 and my plans all fell apart. But that is something that is on my wish list. So I got no problem with that culture and those attractions coming over here. The only problem is I don't think any of those things really fall into the Disney IP, right? Like Final Fantasy, One Piece, Kingdom of Hearts. Like Kingdom of Hearts, is that a Disney video game?
Yeah, it's like a collab between Square Enix and Disney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I remember they did it. They did a Kingdom of Hearts meet and greet at Oogie Boogie, and in my video, I'm like, "Who's going to wait in line that long for a Mickey Mouse?" People are like, "Oh, bro, you don't even know that's Kingdom of Hearts." I'm like, "No, I don't know what that is." And boy, was I proved to be an idiot on that particular one.
That's funny. What do I say, you, George?
No, I'm a huge fan of Kingdom Hearts. I'm not a huge game player now like I used to be in the 90s, but I have followed the franchise since its conception, where it opened in 2002 and then up till now. So I'm in the Kingdom Hearts lore, but as far as in the parks go, I don't really see the need for it. I think it's great just in a game-based kind of sensory. I would just, as far as like a meet and greet goes, like how they have like Mickey, Donald, Goofy. I think if they had the Kingdom Hearts characters out for Oogie Boogie Bash, which they did, I wish they would have had Sora. I think that would have, but I don't know as far as like with copyright issues. But I do know that they had a Sora costume character at one point, but I don't know if they just got the rights for it at that time for promoting the game. But yeah, I think that's as far as I would go. Anyway.
I like how George says, "Oh, I don't play games." But has anybody seen the thumbnail of him doing the solo video about the cruise ships and that shirt buttoned down to the middle of his chest with his hairs all up and his Elvis style glasses down on his nose? You want to tell me that's not playing games with my heart, George? Get out of here. Get out of here. You don't play games. Honey, I know a player when I see one. And on that thumbnail, we all got played.
Indeed. There's actually a story behind that picture. That was taken last summer at Walt Disney World.
I saw the cover and I said, "Seaman, I'm in."
Exactly. We went to George and I were chilling at the Poly pool, just, you know, and I wanted to get this bad boy, this Trader Sam's mug, but I was already like 4 beers deep. So I'm like, hey, I can't do the mixed drink too. So George, can you go ahead and handle this for me so I can get the mug? You know, he's like, yeah, I got you, dude. I got you. So he did. He took it down. You were pretty drunk, bro.
I was, because I already had a few drinks in as well. I had, I think, like 2 beers. I had a
I just saw Will's comment.
The profile pic.
He's like, I just switched the avatar. Like,
oh yeah, there it is.
The best thing about doing these channels, I'm sorry to cut you off, George, but the best thing about doing these channels is you meet so many funny and fun people.
Oh, we do. It's
comment
great.
section tonight is hilarious, man. I'm trying not to read it because I'm trying to stay in our conversation, but there is so much funny shit happening over there tonight.
It's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
But real briefly, yeah, I had like 2 beers in, and then I had another kind of alcoholic beverage, and then that weird concoction that came with his tiki mug, and that just like set me over. So yeah, that was wasted Italiano.
Yeah, it was. But you look sexy doing it, George. You looked absolutely sexy doing it. Jay Shear here says, Brickey said Armageddon themed ride, and all I heard was Aerosmith.
Yeah, I'm going to start a rock band. I'm going to be known as like a ladies' man, and then at some point in my life, I'm going to put my daughter in all my videos. Nothing wrong with that.
And Nathan Hiller says, I'm not trying to distract Disneyland Jesus.
Look, it's true. I wear a crown of Matterhorns, but I am not your Disneyland savior.
Hey, George and I are still using your Matterhorny comment. Yeah. We love Matterhorny. That is
merch
fantastic.
Coming, baby. Merch coming.
Absolutely. We'll be there. Bad Thought Studio says is scrambled eggs fried chicken.
Toads, what the hell?
Who knew that would be a D23 prediction?
Oh man, I love it. I absolutely love it. Oh, hilarious. Paul Adler, friend of the channel. Paul, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Do you guys think Carousel of Progress will get any love at D23? There is a rumor the final scene might be changed to the future living room from Horizons. That's interesting. If they do that Walt Disney animatronic over at Lincoln, make 2 of them. I wouldn't mind a Walt in there too. But what say you, Brickey?
I mean, Dad in Carousel of Progress is pretty gnarly with his relationship with Mother. If they're going to do anything to that attraction, they might want to clean that up a little bit, because Mother is basically an employee to Father. And
totally.
He's sitting there bragging about, wow, we got root beer, and like Mother's like putting shingles on the house and like changing the oil in the car. So before I get a new living room, I might want to see Mother treated like a person and not an employee. So that would be my wish, because I did it with my friends, and I said, I'm just gonna forewarn you, this is from 1964, and it's pretty pristine. It's cool technology, but the story's a little gnarly to today's standards. And every time I watch it, and he just is like, I'm like, I would never talk to my wife the way that he talks to Mother, never in 1,000 years. So yeah, maybe let's record some new samples, let's maybe be nice to Mother. I love where Paul's going with this, but this is the type of thing that sounds like the most fan of fans rumors, right? Like this is like the People Mover's coming back. The last scene is the most relevant scene. So if they were going to fix anything in that attraction, why would they change that one? You know what I mean? Like that's the one they've been the most flexible with. And dude, Grandma Gaming is sick on Christmas morning. So I don't know. I mean, these are classic attractions. Anything that they do to make them better is awesome, but they got to be careful to obey the legacy of everything. But when I see this type of thing, Paul, I put this in that, like, this feels very fan generated rumor.
What say you, Italiano?
Yeah, I feel like, in time, I want the Carousel of Progress to stay as long as it possibly can, but I do feel like it needs some upgrades, some changes, maybe some new audio animatronics, sort of kind of how they revamped the Country Bear Jamboree, maybe kind of do it in that style. I mean, I don't want to see Father and Mother start breaking out into Disney tunes, but I mean, like, update the storyline a little bit, and for crying out loud, I every time I walk into that theater, like, I don't know what it is. It's just like at the times when I walk onto the monorail, it smells like wet, soggy diaper. I don't know why.
The carpet. I think the carpet's just got like a little bit too much mildew because I know exactly the smell. It smells like an old movie theater that needs to get torn down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope it kind of gets a little TLC. But yeah, I mean, that's will they do it? I don't think they'll do it now for this D23, but I think in time, I would love to see a revamp. It gives me hope with attractions like that because with what they have done with the Country Bears, OG, you said it so many times, they could have easily just taken that out and put something else in, but they decided to keep the Bears and kind of reworked it with like adding Disney tunes and what have you in it, like a country western type of manner. So I kind of hope that they do that with Carousel of Progress.
Yeah, now it's the Country Bears Decades Tour, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's hilarious. Jay Shear here says, "Okay, who is Brickey's favorite vlogger?"
It's easy. Casey Neistat. The run that Casey Neistat went on YouTube was just phenomenal. Filmed his life every single day for like 3 or 4 years, and the more you followed that story, the more you got sort of turned into all the like little details of his life. And, when he first started doing it, nobody knew who he was, but then he would go through Manhattan and people would be like, Casey. And after a while, he's like riding down, Manhattan on a electric skateboard and cops over their speaker, like, "What's up, Casey?" And like the whole way that the city started rooting for him was just phenomenal. So yeah, that's one of the greatest entertainment things I've ever seen in my life. So I love that.
Awesome. And what was Casey? What was the
Casey Neistat? Huge YouTuber, like, probably 12 million subscribers or whatever. But like probably in like 16 or 18, he kind of started the daily vlogging thing. And he would live his life, but he was a filmmaker. So if he was out running, he would like run up, put his camera on the fence, run back. So he'd have footage of him running past the camera. And it's one guy making these vlogs, but it looked like you were watching a movie. And I loved his dedication to storytelling, to cinematography, and like, a lot of things that I try to implement in my channel borrow from that. Just because it's on YouTube, it doesn't mean that it has to be like low bar quality of storytelling and entertainment and camera work. And, in a world of iPhone and DJI YouTube channels, I definitely try to differentiate myself with real camera, color grading, 3-act storytelling. Like I really tried to make my videos feel like you're watching a little mini movie, and I try to honor the legacy of the Walt Disney World of Color specials and try to kind of be somewhere in the wheelhouse of that. And once I saw what Casey Neistat was doing on YouTube, I go, this is something I want to get into.
Beautiful. Absolutely. I got to check it out. I will definitely check it out. Starship here says, do you think Moana and Magic Kingdom is true, Brickey?
What's that?
Moana and Magic Kingdom. You think that rumor is true?
Yeah, I do, because the blueprints are pretty far, and Disney has been putting out a lot of blueprints on trying to figure out some cool boat technologies. And that was a video that I wanted to get done before D23, and my window just closed up on me. I wanted to like take a lot of those blueprints, break down and kind of predict how it could work. And then when it came out, sort of judge myself like, I got this right, I got that wrong. But definitely something is a brewing with Moana. No doubt about it. They are working on something. And, once again, it rounds out the parks culturally. It's a huge hit of a movie. The song's a banger, and everybody loves a good Disney boat ride. It's been a while since we got one of those. Like the problem with DCA is DCA doesn't have any vibe rides. That is instantly what makes it feel different than Disneyland. So, I don't know how epic this is going to be, but boat rides can only get so extreme. So hopefully, they do that property justice and give the fans like another great boat ride.
Yeah, no, well said. And I would love a boat ride in DCA. That park definitely needs it. In terms of Moana, it's like this franchise absolutely crushing it on Disney Plus. This Moana 2 almost certainly is going to crush at the box office. This has turned into a pretty powerful IP. Disney would be foolish not to explore a Moana option. I get it. We got the Moana water thing over at Epcot, but like a serious, attraction, like at Magic Kingdom, they would be foolish not to explore that. And I think they will. We might even get that at D23.
I think they definitely will. I think Even if they don't mention it this time, which I think they might hint at it, if not make it a full-fledged announcement. It's definitely coming soon, and I already know what Tomorrow's going to say once he makes that announcement. He's going to look out into the fans and he's going to go, "You're welcome."
You're welcome.
But before that, he's going to go, I mean, do I have a cool job or what?
Love it. Epic Parkcast here says there isn't a single normie family that would care about Horizons or the People Mover. Probably right. Probably true.
Preach. Yeah, I mean, sometimes Disney really can, there's the hardcore fans.
Yeah.
And you have to be loyal to them because that's the girl that got you to the dance, right?
Right.
But at the same time, they do need to think about how to bring in new people and honor new audiences. So it's always best when they can somehow find a way to make new folks happy, but honor the legacy. And that's why all the Easter eggs are always so important. That little breadcrumb trail they plant to be like, we didn't forget the legacy of Walt. We didn't forget the legacy of our parks, but we got to put a T-Ron in here.
T-Ron, I love that. I absolutely love that. Jay here says, are we all wearing cardigans for D23 to back Iger and Tomorrow? Yeah, we should. There's nothing more classic Iger than just like $1,000 cardigan. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going straight. I'm going Bob Chapek cosplay all 3 days at D23.
Oh, that's perfect, man. Just get some khakis, shave the head.
Just perfect. Stand real awkward. Not know what do I do with my hands? What do I do with my hands? And then everybody who talks to me, I'm like, did you know that fans can now have the experience of flying the Millennium Falcon in the East and West Coast?
Don't you wonder what he's up to? I mean, I would love to. I would love to sit down and talk to that man.
You know what he's doing right now? He's riding something at Six Flags and cutting himself to feel alive.
Exactly. It's Florentine here. Says, what do you guys imagine the World of Motion reference will be for Test Track? If you had to guess or imagine, a horse chariot is mine, but is that odd? What say you, Italiano? What's your prediction, brother?
I don't know if they'll have like props that was from the original ride that would pay tribute to it, or if it's going to be just the kind of overall kind of like look to it, because they really didn't give too much on it. They just kind of showed like a little piece of one concept art, and it's like nothing really that you can kind of go by. You can kind of see like behind the car,
trees.
You can kind of see trees, with like some sun rays coming through. It's like I mean, it's possible that they may like add hidden like little Easter eggs but again, would a normie even know what the hell that is? I mean, if you even ask a normie about World of Motion, they'll say, well, what was World of Motion? We thought Test Track opened with the park back in 1982.
Right.
So Test Track is really fascinating if you ever get the chance to go on a VIP tour at Walt Disney World, because when you do a VIP tour at Walt Disney World, your party gets a van and your CM drives you from park to park. And we have a really great CM that always does our VIP tours. He's just the best. And he knows that we don't care about rides. We're all about vibes. And so he's like, you guys want to go the long way around Epcot? We're like, hell yeah, we do. So we do this big long drive backstage in Epcot. And one of the most fascinating things is seeing Test Track from behind, because you're going so fast that when you're on that, you don't realize you are just ripping through a parking lot, and there are like forklifts driving around below you. There are deliveries happening. Like, you are in backstage operations, and the way that the track's bent and how fast you're going, you don't realize it. But when you see it from the back, you're like, you gotta be kidding me. Cause it's just people going, woo! And they're just like, a guy in a forklift is just like driving by with oranges. Like, it is the wildest thing ever.
Which is actually funny because I've never done that tour, but I can kind of get a gist of that because since I've been on that ride so many times and I'm an observer, I like to look at different things in a different perspective, especially because, yeah, you have like the people that are riding it. They're just like, okay, here we go. You know, we're about to hit 65 miles an hour. But meanwhile, yeah, I'm like looking around and I have seen just people like driving the forklifts with boxes and barrels, and they're going and you see people parking their cars on one side and
Yeah,
into a
because
parking lot. It's wild.
You come in a backstage exit and test track is straight ahead, and you come in and you see the track and it's all like lifted up on like metal 2x4s, you know? So it's so hokey and wild looking that it's like, it would be awesome if they built a showroom around that, you know? But out of all the things I've seen backstage, that is one of the wildest attractions. And then another thing is that if you ever get the chance to stand behind Expedition Everest, it's not that tall. It's not that tall at all. It's a not that big of a show building compared to some of these show buildings we see, but it really shows how they like dug out the animal kingdom, how they use the body of water, the forced perspective. Like when you're from behind it, like it doesn't feel any bigger than the Matterhorn, even though it's technically Disney's tallest mountain, but the way that they dug out everything around it, it's fascinating. And like Avatar, for example, all the speakers are facing the parking lot. So when you're in Avatar, it sounds like everything's off in the distance, but when you get out of your van, you're like, what? Because all those jungle noises are like straight in your face. And
That's
when you
awesome.
go on stage, it feels like it's off in the distance, but when you're off in the distance, it's horrible.
That is hilarious. I love that. That is funny.
When you did that, it just reminded me of that Mickey Mouse short where Mickey pulls off Goofy's ears and he's talking because he's trying to catch his nose.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
he's just
yeah.
like, what?
What?
I want to point out something. Goofy is innocent, and all Mickey does is frame him over and over again. Case in point, the People versus Runaway Railway. Okay. First off, Mickey Mouse puts his dog in the trunk. Already a real jerk move. And then I would like for everybody to know that it is Mickey's picnic basket and the pie that goes inside of Goofy's locomotive, which blows up the screen. And then, oh no, must have hit that track switch. It is once again Mickey who sets everything in motion. Now, my man Goofy is always villainized, always found like, oh, because he's been given the name Goofy, he's obviously not responsible. I would like to point out to everybody that Goofy is way more responsible than Senior Mickey Mouse, who causes a lot of trouble and just goes, oh, me? I didn't do that. And he moves on down the runaway.
Absolutely.
Oh no! I must have hit that track switch!
There he is.
Caught red-handed. Caught red-shorted.
There he is. There he is. Well, to our 2 hour and 10-minute crew, thank you so much for watching, everybody. Really, really fun conversation today. Brickey, it is always a blast having you on the channel. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir.
It was a blast. Hopefully we answered some people's speculations. There's so much excitement in the air. 10 days away from Disney fan Super Bowl. Cannot wait to see what happens at the Honda Center. And as a Duck fan, I feel like I might finally walk out of there with a win.
There we go. Exactly. Well said. Well said. Brickey, if you can let everybody know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Citrus Gooey Corner, always getting sticky with the orange rind, spitting out seeds, taking those OC vitamin C supplements. You know me. I got the powder you put in your drink that makes you go poo-poo.
There it is. You heard the man. And Mr. Sticky the Italiano, where can they find you on social media, sir?
Again, you can find me over at my favorite hoagie shop outside of Kennywood. And we're going to have a special Coco and Canto meet and greet. And make sure you go and ride the sombrero ride over in DCA.
There it is. There it is. How do you follow that up?
Again, I don't think I can follow it up with that. So we'll go with that tonight.
That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. Thank you all so much for watching. Comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we discussed today. Thank you so much and have a wonderful, wonderful evening.